Hi guys. Okay, so let's talk about the costs of college. I know a lot of people are telling you to go to college and get another degree, a 2 year or 4 year degree. But I know a lot of you are scared about what that costs. So let's talk about that. Let's break it down a little bit. So to get a BA or a BS degree, so that's a 4 year degree. The average price for the whole 4 year degree is about 100,000 or $122,000. So it varies a lot, right, between what kind of colleges you're going to. If you're only going to a 2 year college, that 2 years that you'll take there will cost about 50 grand. But if you're going to a private nonprofit, then that's closer to $200,000. So, and these, by the way, the source information there is at the bottom there, so updated to last year's kind of prices. So, very similar to what you guys are going to see moving forward. But the point is, the type of university you go to, which university you go to, matters a lot in how much it's going to cost. That being said, only 39% of people finish college in 4 years. 60% of college students take 6 years to finish. And then a lot of people don't finish at all. They'll take some courses, but never actually achieve a degree. So in that case, you're spending a lot of money and you're not really getting a whole lot for that money. These costs, especially tuition rates, all tend to increase each year as well. So these were the costs for last year, next year, the year after that. Typically, you're in college for multiple years, right? For 6 years, right? 60% takes 6 years. By that sixth year, it's going to be more expensive than when you got accepted into the university. And just like the type of university matters, the cost varies widely by location as well. But you also have to think this does not account for scholarships, grants, and other financial aid. So most of you are not going to be paying sticker price on your tuition. Most of you are going to be getting some help from FAFSA, some help from grants, some help from loans, some help from scholarships. So it's not going to be the sticker price. So interest. The average debt of a 2016 college grad, which is kind of like the most recent, 4 year degree grad group, was $37,000. So let's assume that you do a little bit better than that and you end up with only 30 grand of debt. My student loans are at 8% interest. Now, this is interesting because my home and my car loans are much better interest rates. They're at like 1 point something, 2%, 3% interest. 8% interest is pretty high. So if you have $30,000 of debt, an 8% interest rate is going to add $2,400 to your debt each year. If you pay $200 a month, you're only paying off the interest. Your principal, the amount you actually borrowed, that 30,000, does not decrease and you never pay it off. If you pay $300 a month, then you're really only paying $1,200 toward the principal each year. So it's going to take you 14 years to pay it off, and you're going to pay $19,000 extra in interest. So instead of paying $30,000, you're going to be paying almost $50,000 for that debt because you have to pay not just the principal, but the interest. And they always have you pay for that interest first. It's tricky that way. That being said, there are loan forgiveness programs, and most 4 year degree loans get forgiven after 20 years. But whatever is forgiven gets added to your income that year, and you have to pay taxes on it. So let's say that you get $30,000 of loan forgiven at the end of your 20 years. Well, now you have to pay taxes on that $30,000 as if you earned that money the year. So your taxes are going to be pretty high that year. So it's very complicated, y'all. So let's say you plan on getting a good job so you can pay off all of this debt that you have and you don't have to worry about it. Well, let's see. About 2% of college graduates are unemployed. That's a pretty low number, right? In the typical average population, the rate of unemployment is about 3.9%. And this is from the 2008 stats. So I took this specifically before the COVID pandemic and all that, because that really threw everything off. But 2018, kind of normal situation happening, we had about 3.9% general unemployment, 2% for college grads. So better, but still 2%. Here's where it gets complicated though. 43% of college grads are underemployed. So that means that they are not working enough, or they're not getting paid enough to like make ends meet. 80% of people in personal or culinary services are underemployed, and 29% in engineering. So you can see how what your major is, what you study, and what you get your degree in really has a big impact on whether or not you're going to be able to find a job, and a job that pays you well. Some of the most popular majors have the highest rates of underemployment. So be careful. Look at what your major is and look at what the kind of job outlook is for that major. Are you really going to end up with a job after that 4-year degree? 41% of recent college grads work in a career that does not require a degree. That was me. When I graduated my college, right, from UC Irvine, I worked at Trader Joe's. I worked at a grocery store. Because when you graduate with a BA in psychology, you're actually not qualified to do any work in the field of psychology. You need a graduate degree to work in psychology as a counselor, as a therapist, etc. So I was qualified to do the same kind of work that non-college grads were qualified to do. It's a little frustrating. So again, consider your major. And then internships are another really big part of the kind of grand scheme of things as well. 43% of college students worked unpaid internships in 2017. So that again was me. I worked for an entire year for free, for no money. And I was able to do that because I was able to move back home and live with my parents, and they kind of supported me through that. But that's how I got a job. I worked for free. I was at Desert Hot Springs High School for an entire year without getting paid. And my husband did the same thing as a lawyer. He had to work for free for a little over a year. So it's very common. So let's assume best case scenario here. You have less than the average debt. You have $30,000 of debt. And right out of college, you get a job, like a full-on job. You're not underemployed or anything. Congratulations, your average starting salary for a college graduate was about $51,000 in 2018, right? So again, before the pandemic, before the economic collapse that is caused by that. So we have $51,000 per year. Just for math's sake, let's assume that you are getting $50,000 a year. That goes down to $4,166,000 $4,166, sorry, per month. That's what we call gross, your gross income. Then we have to get to net. So you have paycheck deductions. Everyone has paycheck deductions. Part of that is taxes. If you don't deduct enough from your paycheck in taxes, then you get hit with a really big tax bill at the end of the tax season, right? In April when taxes come due. You also probably have deductions for insurance, and you might have deductions for things like disability insurance or retirement funds. So there's lots of things that might be deducted from your checks. Net is what you actually deposit into your bank account. So gross is what you kind of earn. Net is what you actually deposit into your bank account. So paycheckcity.com estimates is $3,166 a month if you take minimum deductions from your paycheck. You're really not getting anything extra here. You're not getting disability insurance. You're not really doing anything for a retirement fund or anything like that. Basic deductions. Housing is people's biggest cost. Let's say you want to get out of the desert. A lot of you want to get out of the desert when you grow up, right? Orange County is a wonderful place, right? A lot of people want to live in Orange County. if you want to live in Orange County, the average rent for a 500 square foot studio apartment, the studio means there's no room. It's not like you have a living room and a bedroom. The living room is your bedroom, right? It's all one room. The average rent for that is $1,600 a month. Okay. The same apartment in Riverside County is average $1,000 a month. So again, you can see where you live makes a huge impact. That being said, there's a lot of jobs in Orange County, a lot of jobs in LA that don't exist in other counties that are cheaper to live in. So depending on what career you're going towards, you might have to live in one of these expensive places. Additional costs with housing, you got to furnish it, right? You got to have a couch, you got to have a bed, you got to have, all that stuff. Deposits, there's typically big deposits due at the beginning of your rental agreement, especially if you want to have pets. You might have to pay for parking, utilities, and other fees that are associated with housing. Then you have other costs. So after housing, you have $1,566 left in your bank account each month. Let's say you want to spend $250 on food. You want to eat pretty decently. Let's say you have a cheap car, and you've got $300 car payment each month. Let's add a couple hundred for car insurance, gas, maintenance. Let's say you have to get new tires or anything like that. Like that averages out over the year. And let's say you're paying about $250 in utilities. What you're going to end up with is $566 in the bank. And your numbers might be slightly different. You can kind of refer back to the quiz that you did yesterday on Career Zone to see how your numbers might be slightly different. But let's say that's the numbers. You're left with $566 in your bank account. Now you have your student loans. If you make that $300 payment each month, remember that you're going to pay this off in 14 years, which means you're going to pay almost $20,000 extra. If you make that $300 payment, you're left with $266 in your bank account at the end of the month. Side note, you cannot declare bankruptcy on your student loans. So if you buy a car or a house or you start a business and it turns out you can't pay what you thought you could pay, you can declare bankruptcy. They're going to take some of your things away. They might garnish your paycheck, but after 7 years, it's kind of like you start over again. There's no such thing with student loans. You cannot get out of your student loans, not even if you die. If you die, whoever co-signed your loans still owes that money. So think very carefully about what kind of loans you're signing for. So with that $266, that's all you have left for all of the other things in life, for going out, for buying clothes, for your hobbies, for travel, if you want to have pets, if you want to have kids, if you want to have a savings account. What if you get sick or you get injured and you can't go to work? So you can see how that $50,000 a year salary goes really, really, really quickly. It ends up going a lot more quickly than people think it does. On the other hand, you're still in the green. You're still making a slight profit each month, and that can add up over time. And you can also strategize and hustle. You can look for roommates or get a second job, things like that. There are ways, right, to make it through. And if you think about it, most of those costs are still around for people who don't get those college degrees, right? So they still have to pay rent, they still have to pay, for food and all of that stuff. And typically they're going to get a lower paying job. So you can see kind of what the average salary was in 2015 at the different levels of education. So if you have your bachelor's degree in 2015, the average was $59,000 for a starting salary. If you have your high school diploma, that's $25,000. So think about how you would make those same payments with, half the money, really. Also, you have to think too, it's not just about your starting wage, but about your lifetime earnings, what you're going to earn over the course of the, rest of your life. Typically, jobs that you get with higher degrees have higher promotions and places to go. And unemployment. Unemployment is much better for those with college degrees. We'll continue in the next video. Don't freak out. You're going to be okay.